welcome to the 5th edition of Reverend Rabbits. In this edition, we'll be talking about how we know what we know, or to give its posh name, epistemology, which is the kind of thing they talk about in Oxford.
Probably recognise it from that weird advert for perfume. In the original opera, something very dramatic and quite tragic is happening, like maybe somebody is leaping off a building, or being gored by a bull, or writing a significant letter whilst standing in their nightie. But here in this programme, this opera aria is here to alert you that a crime has happened, possibly in a student bedroom near here. Away, man, a crime has been committed. What a noah.
Well, I'm very busy, Lewis. Can't you call in forensics or something? Leave me alone and get me a cup of tea.
It's that bonny doctor lassie. Yes, all right, Lewis. Leave me alone for a moment. I'm examining the evidence. It's worse than we feared, I'm afraid. The dastardly culprit has bitten the duvet, and the only evidence we have to go on is he appears to have left a trail of raisins.
Well, I can't be bothered with that, Lewis. I'm going to the pub.
Inspector, wait. We found some CCTV. It's a fair cop, Governor. I hold me paws up. How well, lad. Into the slammer for you. It's Alfeda's in, pet.
That's quite enough of that. Do you mind if I do the theology bit now? Would that be okay? Also, my beer. If you've been tuning into a church service recently, you might have noticed that we've been reading a bit of St. John's Gospel. And John wrote his whole Gospel a bit like a massive, great big law trial. He's always talking about witnesses and about testimony and about what's true and about what's false. And right at the end of John's Gospel, he says, I saw all these things and I'm writing them down and I know that my testimony is true. So for John, the evidence that we need to believe in Jesus is right there. It's because trusted people, people that we can believe in, have said it's true. So that's that. Easy, huh? Or maybe not quite so easy, because I don't know about you, but I don't trust people just because they say something's true. I need a bit of evidence. I need some proof. Like CCTV. I mean, I don't know John or Matthew or Mark or Luke or Paul or any of them Bible dudes. And the stories that we do read about them in the Bible, they don't often come out very well. You know, like Peter denying Christ and Thomas not quite knowing what was going on with the resurrection and Paul persecuting Christians before he became one himself. They don't seem like very reliable witnesses to me. And the truth of the matter is, we don't have any evidence to say that Jesus really did rise from the dead. I mean, we also don't have any evidence to say that he didn't, despite what you might have read in the Da Vinci Code. So we either need to believe these guys or not. And maybe the only way to really tell and maybe maybe my life is very difficult. And maybe the only way we can really tell whether these guys are worth believing or not is not about their prior bad acts, as the law would say, not about the stuff they did before when they didn't really understand Jesus or they betrayed him. Maybe it's about what they did afterwards, how their lives changed after Jesus had risen from the dead. Because despite all the hoopla that you get in churches nowadays over Easter, those first years after Jesus' resurrection weren't all fluffy bunnies and chocolate eggs.
The early Christians were scared. They were misunderstood and later on they were persecuted. They had to meet in secret, in safe houses and in catacombs, like massive great big underground tombs. I haven't got a handy catacomb, so I'm filming this in the cupboard under the stairs for effect.
But a weird thing happened. During those dark days, Christians started to show real love and concern for each other, and they started to show real courage. Peter and Thomas and Paul, those three dudes that started out a bit dodgy in the Bible, all ended up leading Christian communities, caring for their flock, and eventually laying down their lives for their faith. And that's what got people thinking. Maybe if this faith can cause people to behave in this compassionate and courageous way, maybe there's something in it after all. I mean, I admire those dudes too, but I'd like to get out now. I think there might be a spider down my neck. And the book of Acts tells us that what really convinced people that the whole Christianity thing was true was that the early Christians shared everything in common, so that they made sure that everybody had enough. So, you know, when bad things happen, like war and famine and global pandemics, the question that people often ask is, how can you have faith in God when all this bad stuff is happening? Well, that's not a bad question to ask, but I think maybe a better question is, when bad things are happening, what do people of faith do about it? Because, to my mind, if you actually want evidence about the truth of the resurrection, the truth of Christianity, then the place to look is not for some kind of weird 2,000-year-old CCTV. The place to look is at Christians today. And to be fair, people have done a lot of bad stuff in the name of religion, but people have done a lot of good stuff in the name of religion too. And if you can find Christians or people of faith who are showing compassion and courage, then maybe you might think there's something in this stuff too, just like they did all those many years ago. That's it for now. Have compassion, have courage, and don't poo in anybody else's bed.
You are bang the rates, man. Why, aye.